my amazing students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. Today we're here with lesson 84 in your Saxon Blue Book, and we're talking about increase in percent. I call these peanut problems because doesn't the diagram look like a peanut? So you can just remember that increases in percent are going to look like peanuts when we're done with them. So this is what we start with. This is our of number of 400. This is our original number or our before number, and it is considered to be the 100%. And then after the after number is 68, and 68 is more than 400. So that's why we make it bigger than the original, because 68 is bigger than 40. And then to find out how much bigger, what increase in percent we have, we look down here and we analyze. 40 is 100% of 40. 68 is the new number. 68 is 100% of 40, which is the 40 plus another 28. 28 is 70% of 40. So we have the 100% of 40 plus another 70% of 40, and the 100 and the 70 give us 170% of 40. So when our 68 is bigger than our 40, we will always have something bigger than 100 over there. So that's just kind of a general overview of what we're going to be doing. And peanut problems, I think, are a lot of fun once you learn how to do them. So let's think about this, okay? An increase of 70% is a total of 170%. So we have to listen very carefully to the wording of the problem. We are increasing by 70%. That means we start with 100%, we increase 70%, and we're left with 170% of the original, okay? And then if the increase were 170%, then we're actually talking about 100% plus 170%, and that would leave us with 270%. So let's get started with an example. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is read the example to you because I'm going to need all of my board to work it. To their dismay, the townspeople found that the rodent population had increased 140%. If the rodent population had been 400 before, what was the rodent population now? So they gave us increased 140%, and they gave us the old population was 400. So here we have our board. I erased all the things that did not apply to this problem. But now, let's see what we already know. We know the original population of rodents was 400. 400 rodents. That was our original. And we know that they have increased 140%. So if they have increased 140%, remember, we have to add 100% to that. So we can put right here 240% because our percentage is known. So in all, 240%. Okay, and now we're going to try to figure out what that number is right there. How much is the 240%? Well, remember that each percent is 100. So we could, 400. So we could say 400 is 100% of 400. Okay, so then we know we have 200%. So that automatically is 800, isn't it? So we're going to say 240%, we're going to kind of work backwards here, is going to be the 800 and the 800. So that's the 200. And then we've got to figure out what is the 40% of the 400. Okay, so let's get another board here. Okay, so I know that I have 240% because they told me I had a 140% increase. And I know easily that 100% is 400 because that's how many I started with. And then that means that 200% would be double that, or 800. So the only thing I really don't know is what is the remaining 40% of 400. Okay, so this was our original number. 40% of 400 is 40%. Remember, we can always write a 40% as 40 over 100 times, of means times 400. Well, the 100 and the 400 will cancel with 4. So now I've got 40 times 4 is 160. Okay? So I figured out what the 40%, which is the only part I didn't know. So let's go to a new board. So remember, we were starting to talk about 240%. 240% is 100% plus 100% plus the remaining 40%. The 100% is 400 because that was our original population. Another 100% is 400. And then we just found out on this board that the remaining 40% is 160. So now 400 plus 400 plus 160 is 960 rodentia. And that's a lot of rats. Okay, so 960 is the answer. Okay, now, when you're doing a problem, that really is the whole problem. But, so I'm going to tell you to fill in the peanut, okay? And then you have your whole problem. But let's go ahead and let's just explain it using these words that we did last time, just to make sure that we've got this. So, the original rodent population was 400. They told us there was an increase of 140, which meant there was a final percentage of 240% total. Okay, so then we say that 960 is more than the original 400. That lets us know to use the peanut. Okay, and then 400 is 100% of 400. Okay, so let's do, we have actually 200%. So let's go ahead and change this to 200%. So we'll say 800 is 200% of 400. Plus, we have the 800 plus the remaining 160. Okay, and then if we took the 160, this is if we didn't have this, if we did have this, took the 160 and found out what percent of 400 it was, we would find that it was 40%. And we would say, oops, 160 is 40%. So then of 400, so then we would add the 40% to the already 200% to get 240%. So we kind of worked that backwards and forwards just so that you could see how it all plays out. But when you're doing the problem, you want to show all your work, but you're just filling in the peanuts, aren't you? Okay, so that's pretty simple. So on that last problem, a very quick way to do it, I'm kind of explaining everything out, but because you knew it was a 240% of 400, you could have just worked it out straight from there, couldn't you? 240 over 100 times 400. The 100 and the 400 are going to cancel with a 4. 4 times 240 is 960. And that would be a very fast way to work it, right? Okay, so now I'm going to read you the second example. It says the number of cheering fans increased from 60 to 240. What percent increase was this? Okay, so on my little board, 60 was the original. So 60 is the original 100%. And then we're increasing to 240. And we don't know the percent on this one, do we? We just know the original and we know what it has increased to. All right? So we're going to say 240 is what percent? So what percent? Now you could use P if you wanted to. What percent of 60? Okay, 240 is what percent of 60, the original number. And that's fine to use that. So now I'm going to try to get this percent. So look at what I have to do. Let's try to do it all at one time. I need to get rid of the 60, and the 60 is on top. So I want a number. I want to get rid of the 60, so I'm going to cancel it. But I also want to get rid of the 100. So I'll put the 100 on the top. Now, if I multiply by 100 over 60 on this side, and then I turn around and multiply by 100 over 60 on the other side, have I changed anything at all on my problem? I did the same thing to both sides. But look, 100, 100 cancels, 60, 60 cancels, and I am left with my percentage, which is exactly what I want for my answer. So now we have to do this math here. Let's see if we can do this a little easier. Can we just go ahead and cancel 240 and 60? Yes, we can, just like that, right? Because they both have a 0 that will knock out. 24 divided by 6 is 4. So they both cancel with a 4. 4 times a 100 is a 400%. Okay, now remember 400% is multiplying something by 4. Isn't 60 times 4 equal to 240? Pretty easy, huh? Okay, so now we're ready for 2 practice problems for you. All right, so the first one says the number of acorns on the ground increased 240% during the storm. If 5,400 acorns were on the ground before the storm, how many were on the ground after the storm? So here we have increased by, all right? So increased 240% means, remember, I take the original 100% and I add it to the 200%. So my final percentage is 340%. So that's going to go right here, 340%. Okay? And my original number of acorns on the ground was 5,400 acorns. So now I have to find one little spot. How many acorns are on the ground after the storm? So I have my percentage and I have my original. So isn't this one of those that we could do the real quick math? 340% of 5,400 is something. Okay, now we know 300% is 3 times. So we already know that 3 times 5,400 would be a low guess because we have 40% more that we have to account for. So let's do it all in one fell swoop. So I'm going to get a board and I'm going to put on the board 340% of 5,400. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. We're looking for 340% of the original number of acorns. And now we're going to write this as a percent as a fraction. So 340 over 100. The of we will write as a times, and 5, 4, 0, 0. Okay, so now right off the bat, I can cancel the 100 and the 5,400 like that. So now all I have to do is multiply 340 times 54. Okay, so let's get another board so we can multiply 340 times 54. And here we go, 340 times 54. Now this one is your practice, so you really should be doing all of this. All right, so we're going to multiply 0 times 4, 0, 4 times 4, 16, 3 times 4, 12, 13. And then on the bottom, we've got 0 times 5, 0, 4 times 5, 20, 3 times 5, 15, 17. We add them all together, 0, 6, 3, 8, 1. We have 18,360 acorns on the ground. And that was a very fast way to do that problem, right? Now remember, the 5,400 times 3 would be everything except for that 40%. All right, so that would have been, I don't know, 16,000 something, but then when we add the 40%, it goes up. And that is your first practice. So now we're going to come back with practice 2. Okay, here is practice 2. The number increased from 40 to 280. What percent increase was this? Now, notice they didn't say what percent of. They said what percent increase is this? So now we're going to take the difference. We're going to take the 100 off of there. So basically the increase from 40 to 280. The increase from 40 to 280. Okay. Now, we're trying to find out what the increase is. So let's go ahead and subtract. We had 240 was the increase. And we're trying to find the percent increase. So we're going to say 240 is what percent? So we're going to write down 240 is the increase. So 240 is what percent? So we'll say P over 100 of 40. Okay, so that would be our equation. So when we write this out, the is becomes an equal sign. So 240 is the increase. 240 is what percent of 40? Okay, so to make this a little bit easier, can't we just go ahead and lop off a 0 and a 0 over here? And then 4/10, we're going to cancel that out. So can't we get rid of the 4/10 by multiplying by a 10 over 4? Multiply by a 10 over 4, and that's going to cancel all that out. So over here on this side, don't we need to, let's give it a little bit of space here. Don't we need to multiply by a 10 over 4? Okay, so now on this side, 10 over 4, canceled out the 10, canceled out the 4, and we're left with the percentage that we want, the percent increase. So over here, let's divide by the 4 first. 240 divided by 4 is 60. And 60 times 10 is 600. So that was a 600% increase. Now, let's see if that makes sense. Okay, so 600% increase would be 700 percent of. Okay, so let's check. We started with the 40 going to the 280. So 40 times 700% is, does this go to 280? Remember, the 700% is 700 over 100. And so basically, that's the same thing as a 7. 40 times 7 is 280. That's the number we were going to. So it is a 600% increase, which is a 700% times the original number. We are done with lesson 84 on increases in percent. Remember, all of the increases in percent will be peanut problems. This is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.